finally found what I was looking for. A place where I can be without the bars. Because I am a stranger who is bound in even stranger war. I finally found what I was looking for. Here I
Hello everyone! Guess who's back and ready to roll? You know what I absolutely love in video games? Rivalries. Rivalries keep everything alive and tense until you face your rival next time. Rivalries can stem from just about anything, from friendly competition, family bonds, feuds, opposing ideals, and good old-fashioned good versus evil, or just the plain satisfaction of becoming the very best like no one ever was. Rivals keep us at our toes, waiting in anticipation until the next battle. That's why I'm dedicating this countdown entirely to my favorite rivalries in video games. Same rules as usual, one game per franchise and only from games I've played. Like I said, these are my favorite rivalries, not the best rivalries in gaming history. Now that that's been taken care of, let's roll! We start off big with one of the most intense rivalries to ever be conceived in Mortal Kombat history. Scorpion vs. SubZero. Theirs is a legendary rivalry that has gone off for decades. The hatred behind this rivalry is yet to be quenched, cause, you know, the Mortal Kombat continuity has completely gone to shit and become one huge clusterfuck of a mess. But who the hell cares about that when we got a Spectre from Hell with a flaming skull and a ninja with ice powers going at each other's throats? I mean, who the hell comes up with this awesome stuff? Since Mortal Kombat blew the lid on video game violence all the way back in 1992, they've never stopped. And with each new game, what we all look forward to the most is how they further develop this epic conflict. Besides, for many of us, this rivalry represents the birth of something great. It's a throwback to our fighting roots, when we used to settle our arguments with a good old-fashioned spine ripping. Ah, that takes me back. For as long as there's been Street Fighter, this rivalry has also been present. Ryu and Ken. Lifelong friends and sparring partners from the Street Fighter series, Ryu and Ken might have the same moves, style, and might have trained under the same master, but at their core, they couldn't be more different from each other. Ryu is a Japanese lone wolf, noble warrior striving to become the best fighter he can become, while Ken is the energetic and cocky American fuck yeah! With a loving family. There's a lot of respect between these two, but the rivalry between them is just as heated as any other. And to me, it symbolizes everything a rivalry based on friendship is all about. Pushing each other to your limits to better yourselves. But I sort of have a preference for Ken, cause, you know, just look at those rock hard muscles and that manly face.
Gay!
Oh crap. I did it again, didn't I? Roll transition! About time we get a family feud in this countdown. And who's better to lay this out better than the Mishimas? If there was ever a poster family for all dysfunctional families, it'd be these guys. The grudge behind the Mishimas started with Heihachi. God damn it, man! Why did you have to f everyone up? Let's just check what this guy has done so far. He took his own father, Jinpachi's company, locked him in a dungeon and left him to die from starvation, only to be brought back to life by a vengeful spirit leading to the events of Tekken 5. When his son Kazuya was 5 years old, he threw him off a mountain, and after the events of Tekken 2, he threw Kazuya yet again, this time into a freaking active volcano. In Tekken 3, he uses his own grandson, Jin, as bait to lure Ogre, and decides to eliminate Jin once he's done being useful. And that's not all. In Heihachi's ending in Tekken 5, he chains every member of his family, that's Jin, Kazuya, and Jinpachi, into a rocket and proceeds to launching them into space.
Anyway,
though Heihachi is definitely the worst of the Mishimas, the other members aren't exactly little angels. Kazuya has also thrown Heihachi off a cliff, though that was justified due to revenge, but he made even worse business practices than his old man, hiring hitmen, extorting companies out of their money, smuggling endangered species, and doing genetic experiments on them. Gee, the guy goes from hero to villain to anti-hero like that! And Jin isn't a good little scout either. In Tekken 4, he intended to put an end to the Mishima bloodline by killing both his father and grandfather, and then offing himself. And when he finally conquered the throne of the Mishima Zaibatsu, he plunged the world into utter f***ing chaos. Man, these guys got issues. I don't think there's enough therapy in the world to fix them. But I do know one thing though. I think that out of everyone in this family, Heihachi's adoptive son, Li Xiaolong, has the right idea of revenge.
お呼びでしょうか、兄様。
Oh my.
Man, Soul Calibur is an amazing series. I seriously need to talk more about it. And this rivalry really shows how awesome the whole Soul Calibur games are. Presenting Patroclus and Pyrrha.
Say what?
Ah, I had you guys going there for a second. Nah, it's Siegfried the Nightmare. There's very few rivalries that actually helped establish an entire franchise, and this is the case. The rivalry between them originates from the time when Siegfried was possessed by Soul Edge and wreaked havoc and chaos before he was defeated and went back to normal, creating Nightmare. Now surviving off Soul Edge by feeding on the souls of his victims, it's up to Siegfried to stop him and atone for his past and regain his honor. And this all culminated in Soul Calibur 4 with the incredible fight between them. These two have incredibly similar movesets. Not to mention, they both use the same type of weapon, the Zweihanda, a sword that was supposed to be used to cut through enemy horses, but it was so impractical due to its sheer size because only a battalion of men could ever hope to lift the damn thing. This is an awesome rivalry that still belongs to the more recent titles. Nice job, Namco. That's 2 straight entries from you. You seem to know what rivalries are all about. Sonic and Mario. Now before you all go ape shit on me and start the riot yelling, "This is unacceptable!" Just hear me out. I simply couldn't go without mentioning this rivalry. This was the biggest rivalry of the last century. One is fast, aggressive, and made every guy grease their hair to be more spiky than an anime protagonist, whereas the other is a fat plumber with a dodgy mustache who jumps on turtles and eats mushrooms. You did not live in the 90s without seeing or at least hearing about the war Nintendo and Sega had between themselves. Furthermore, since Mario and Sonic were the mascots of both companies, it was inevitable that they'd clash. But unfortunately for Sonic, Sega went and had a bit of bad luck and shot itself in the foot a few times, endangering the Blue Hedgehog's reputation. But then, who was it that came along and helped save them by including him in games like Super Smash Bros., allowing ports of Sonic games for Nintendo, and had an Olympic clash with them? Mario, of course. And this is why I believe this rivalry is so good. Even if the winner of this rivalry has already been decided, at least Mario isn't grudgeful towards the past and is respectful to Sonic. Good guy Nintendo, helping a buddy out when he needs. Ah, sibling rivalry. There's just something about two brothers hating each other's guts for whatever petty reason. But this? Holy sh**! It's incredibly awesome. Devil May Cry 3 was all about Dante and Virgil. And when the special edition came along, sweet Mama Luigi! Brains exploded from sheer epicness. Dante and Virgil are so obtuse they can't even stand to be around each other without ending up fighting each other to the death. Imagine you don't see your brother for years! And what's the first thing you do when you're finally reunited? Stab him with your sword before he tries to stab you with his! Damn! Yeah, no joke. These siblings fight a hell-bent battle twice before using the real superpower of teamwork to beat Arkham. After beating him, we're treated to one of the most climactic scenes in any game with what I find to be a pretty rememberable speech. This rivalry really is just that amazing. If only DMC could have been as great. Fuck you! Oh, is that how you wanna play it, Dante, my boy? Okay. Oh, Shizuo! Would you kindly take the trash out? You know a rivalry is epic when it lasts ages. And that so happens to be the case in Assassin's Creed. The Assassins and the Templars have been going at it for since the dawn of civilization. This is a classic example of opposing ideals. The Assassins believe that people should have the freedom to lead their own lives, but the Templars think humanity must be subdued and led by a select few. This is a war for ideology, for power and supremacy. It's about how people choose to shape the world and how far they're willing to go for their own ideals. But the thing that I love the most about this rivalry and about Assassin's Creed in general is how they do a complete 180 on your perception of history and historical figures. It's a conspiracy theorist's wet dream. Some of you might defend that these are not rivals, they're just plain enemies, but I'd have to disagree. They're fighting for the same goal. They're competing for the same thing. So it's really hard not to think of them as deadly rivals, at least. And since I don't have a funny pun or joke to end this segment, here's a clip that I find funny.
Don't you recognize me? It's me, Mario!
Another sibling rivalry. Well, kinda. Not really. You know something? I had a really hard time putting to words how I feel about this rivalry. Hell, to explain it thoroughly, I'd have to talk about the entire Metal Gear Solid franchise for hours on end. But here's an attempt at a summed up version. The Metal Gear Solid saga has been very interesting and very intense. Its story is an epic in and of itself, and it wrapped up the rivalry between the Twin Snakes as well as their father/brother, Big Boss, quite nicely. However, after everything you go through, from Shadow Moses, to the Big Shell incident, to the boss and the incidents in Snake Eater, to the final confrontation in Outer Heaven, I feel that there was no better way to end things between Liquid and Snake than the epic fistfight at the end of Metal Gear Solid 4. Furthermore, each part of this fight represents a portion of Liquid Ocelot's fractured psyche. Starting with a simple fistfight between Liquid and Solid Snake, MGS1 style, transgressing through Liquid Ocelot and Ocelot from MGS2 and 3 respectively, and finally ending with a slugfest representing the worn-out, scarred old Snake and Liquid, quote-unquote, possessing Ocelot. everything that leads to this final battle is just history book worthy. It's, in a word, phenomenal. Let's be honest here. You can't make a rivalry list without including the most epic confrontation of the supernatural, that is, the Belmont clan and Dracula. Vampire hunters, mixed with a grumpy old vampire bent on world domination.
Of course!
And countless references to demons, monsters, and mythology. This has the makings of one of the best things ever! Oh, well then. This rivalry is something that went on for centuries. It started in the 11th century with Leon Belmont trying to save his beloved from an evil vampire lord, and thanks to some plot, we get to know the origins of both Dracula and the vampire killer Whip, passing on to Trevor, Christopher, Simon, Just, Richter, passing on to the Morris family, which is actually related to the Belmonts in some way, and finally back to Julius Belmont in the year 2030 something. I don't really care. If you want to complain about my inaccuracy,
you can leave a complaint in the complaint box, but I'll check that shit!
Anywho, like with the case of Assassin's Creed, you know a rivalry is epic when it lasts for centuries without end. And what's even more epic, it's that it's an entire clan ancestry and descendants going up against the same crusty old fart time and time again. If that's not worthy to be at the number 2 spot, I don't know what is. Hell, even in the new rebooted games, Gabriel Belmont eventually becomes Dracula, having his own son and his descendants hunting him down like a monster. Woo-wee! That's a doozy. Before I show off my favorite rivalry ever, here's a list of honorable mentions. This is a rivalry that has everything all the others before it had. Intensity, longevity, purpose, and so much more. It's a battle of wits that lasted forever and impacted all of us as gamers. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Dr. Light and Dr. Wily. This is a rivalry for the ages that established, well, almost every Mega Man game out there. For those of you who don't know Mega Man,
Shame on you. You call yourselves gamers?
Dr. Light and Dr. Wily were once associates and very good friends. But it didn't last. Dr. Wily was an incredible scientist who won multiple awards for his work and brilliance throughout his career. Yet, he was always overshadowed by Dr. Light. So he got tired of it and turned a new leaf, bent on world domination.
Of course!
Ah, shut up, Bison, what would you know? What ensued after was a game of cat and mouse that lasted for centuries. Everyone thinks that Mega Man was Wily's rival, but I beg to differ. Mega Man was just the means from which Dr. Light used to fight Wily. I mean, think about it. They just used their own creations to battle each other. And this rivalry even went on long after both doctors died. Their ultimate creations, X and Zero, were the epitome of robotics and both hold the hope for the future of the world. The revelation that Zero was actually Dr. Wily's ultimate creation came as a shock to most players. As in Mega Man X4, while Zero has a flashback, we see that Dr. Wily declares that his rivalry with Dr. Light was the only thing that ever gave him purpose.
Our rivalry is what gives me motivation in life. Now go, destroy him. That's an order.
In a way, you could say that they lived on through X and Zero. And though X and Zero were friends for the most time, they did battle each other on multiple occasions, only further cementing this rivalry. And Zero even managed to save the world from an apocalypse in the Mega Man Zero game, proving to be as badass and as capable as X. Truly amazing stuff. Well guys, that's it for me. This has been the Red Eye Hound, and I am super excited for Mega Man being in the new Smash Brothers game.
Sweet Jesus.